Hello, everyone, and welcome to David Goodman's Reality and Truth Show. My name is Vanita Lambert, and I have the honor of hosting this show every week to provide valuable information to our communities and abroad. Today, I want to talk about, I started a couple weeks ago on what I do is help people protect themselves, their families, and their nest eggs. And I wasn't able to complete the 4 areas that I help folks in. And the first one was Medicare, long-term care, final expense planning, and retirement income. And I think I got up to the final expense planning. So I'm going to pick up there today. But before I get into my show, I just want to thank everybody at Soundview TV for making this happen, our technicians, our executive directors, and everyone, and all of my guests that I have on. I usually have a guest on to provide really good information in the areas that they're an expert in. So today, I am going to be the one talking about insurance because that's my field of expertise. And one of the things that I am starting to do, I've always done it, but I just want to let everybody know about it, is me and my bilingual colleague, Alicia, we are going to be providing free seminars in churches throughout, Connecticut. We'll do churches, senior citizens, senior buildings, community, community rooms, libraries, whatever, because we have to get important information out about Medicare that will impact most of the plans that you have this coming Medicare enrollment period. So we're going to be doing that the month of August and September. I've already started scheduling some churches. So if you would like to get a free confidential needs analysis, and it's not just on Medicare, it's going to be on Medicare, long-term care, final expense planning, and life insurance. We could do a PowerPoint presentation in your church when you have Bible study, or in your, at your library, or we could come to your home and do it for your family, or just do a one-on-one confidential needs analysis, absolutely free. And we provide it, in 2 languages because you need to get this information in both languages. So I have one scheduled here already in Bridgeport. I'm going to try to set up some for the libraries. So if you're interested in this information, in this free confidential needs analysis or free confidential needs analysis, just give me a call at 203-687-2778, or you can text to me and we could set something up. I could, schedule an appointment if you would like to see what I do before I present it to your congregation. Say, for example, I'll set up an appointment with the person in charge of that, show them all the information that I'll be showing your congregation, and then we can kind of go from there. Because a lot of people do not, especially in the churches, my main focus are the churches, because a lot of folks do not understand how, the churches start to lose money. And normally, especially if you have a church and it's a senior, you have a lot of seniors there, unfortunately, we are not going to live forever. That's just part of life. And as we lose our members, you have an option to leave a financial legacy to your family or to your church if you don't have a large family, or your favorite charity, and we can set things like that up for you. And if you're, we can make sure that the church continues to get your tithes, for example. I mean, that's really important to some people. So that's, we just go over information like that and let you know what your options are. Some of the things that you can do. You can split your beneficiaries. You can give half to your family and you can give half to your church, or whatever it is that you like to do. But we like to go in, sit down at your kitchen table, or, go into your church right after church services. It only takes about 10 or 15 minutes, okay? And we do a little PowerPoint presentation on these 4 areas, just hitting the bullet points. And anyone that is interested, we will schedule, a one-on-one confidential needs analysis or appointment with them and or their families. And so those areas are Medicare, long-term care, final expense planning, and retirement income. What I recommend to everyone is to, especially when you're about to retire, before you retire, or just anyone that has a family, get your affairs in order now. So that way you can sleep at night. It's just easier. And you don't have to worry about anything. A lot of people don't know how much they're going to pay for health care. So let's say, for example, the average couple that retires at age 65, which, 65 is young. I'm past that and I'm not retiring yet. But if you do, if you retire from 65 to age 90, which is the average lifespan, according to the mortality rates, is the average couple, not everyone, because some people have what I call the golden parachute and they don't pay anything, but the average couple will pay between premiums, co-pays, doctor bills, medication, tests, and all those things about $200,000. And nobody thinks that. You really don't. You could spend up to that much. Some people will pay more depending on your health. So that's something that you would like to plan for, you like to know about it, and compare it to you and or your spouse's or your family's health and see if you fall into that category of paying that much. Maybe you don't. But it's good to know what you're going to have to pay for before you get on your fixed income, before you retire, because once you retire, you're on a fixed income. And, you don't want your costs to continue to increase in things if you can help it. So that's what we try to do. We try to set out a little blueprint of your medical expenses and things like that so that you can have an idea of where you're going to be 10 years from now, 5 years from now, or 15 years from now. And we include the cost of living with your Social Security and stuff like that. So that's one of the categories. And the other one is long-term care. A lot of people think long-term care is just, a nursing home, just sitting in a nursing home, or, when you get old, you get Alzheimer's or whatever, you go to a nursing home and that's it. Long-term care is defined by not being able to perform 2 or more of your daily living activities. And for example, that would be like getting up in the morning, getting out of bed, taking a shower, getting yourself dressed, fixing your meals, taking yourself to the doctor, and things like that. 2 of those. If you're not able to perform 2 or more of what we call your daily living, what do you call it? Daily living expenses. I am so sorry. I lost train of thought. See, I'm getting there. Maybe I should think about that. So if you're not able to perform those 2 or more of your daily living activities, then if you're certified by a medical professional that you cannot do that, that is what long-term care is considered. I apologize for that. I lost train of thought. And once you do that, you're considered long-term care. And when you're, they say that 70% of the folks living over 65 will need some type of long-term care because people are just living longer. And you can get long-term care in different ways. You can get home health care, assisted living facility, or nursing home, okay? or you can have your family take care of you. It's just one of the things that we talk about. We go over all the details of long-term care. And then we also go through final expense planning. If you're living in a home and there are two of you, and you're taking your Social Security or your whatever your income is, pensions, what have you, and you're paying your bills with that money, and all of a sudden you lose one person, how are you going to continue to pay the bills if you only have half the money? So we go through a plan a plan of action to alleviate having that type of stress or that type of strain or worrying about things like that by having final expenses, life insurance basically. If you have life insurance, something happens to one person, then you get the life insurance money and you pay off the house or whatever it is that person is paying for. So that is the third category that we talk about. And then the last one, well, not the last one, but the main one is retirement income. The biggest fear of most people that prevent most people from retiring is that they're afraid that they might run out of money. That is the number one fear for retirement income. A lot of people do not want to run out of money. They're afraid that they might run out of money. They're afraid that they might not have enough money to retire. So we sit down and we go through a plan of action. What you have, your pension, your Social Security, your income, and kind of like do a little blueprint of that for you and show you how there are plans in place to prevent you from running out of money. And so back in the day, I think that's where I left off at. We were talking about the retirement income. Back in the day, when you worked for a company, a factory or whatever, and you retired at 65 or whatever, the company always, most of the time you got a pension. Pensions are gone away now for the most part of it. You still get some with some municipalities and, state jobs and things like that. But for the most part, a lot of companies have done away with pensions simply because they cannot afford to do it anymore. And so what they've replaced that with is 401ks or 403bs. Normally, a company would match, let's just say, for example, 5% of your income. If you put in 5%, they'll put in 5%, and you build up that 401k until you're like 65 years old or until you retire, okay? And so when you retire with that 401k, that is normally pre-tax money. They do not take any taxes out of that. You don't have to pay the taxes on that until you retire or until you withdraw it and you turn 73. When you take the money out, that's when you pay the taxes, federal and state taxes. So I call 401ks a spend down account because that is the type of an account where a lot of folks don't realize it, but you can run out of money. And most people run out of money of their 401k on an average of, depending on how much it is, 13 to 15 years, unless it's like millions of dollars. So what I am able to do with folks is I sit down and I'm able to roll over their 401k, okay, and without paying any taxes or anything like that, into what we call a guaranteed lifetime income. Basically, the long and the short of it is you take your 401k and you turn it into an old school pension with this company by giving you a guaranteed lifetime income. And the way that is done is you roll it over, you get a guaranteed amount of interest, okay? You take the 401k, you roll it over, you get a guaranteed amount of interest, and what they do is they calculate based on the premium and your age and when you decide to take income. So they calculate that amount and they will pay you, let's just say, for example, you roll over $100,000 for, just to say a number. You roll over $100,000, you leave it into this contract for 10 years. You collect guaranteed amount of interest. It's not in the market. Whether you lose, whether the market goes up, you don't goes up or down, you don't lose any money. You only take the market gains. So you leave that money in there. It builds interest, and then when you decide to take your income, all of that stops. Okay, and then what this company will do, or this contract will do, is pay you a certain amount of income for the rest of your life. Even, okay, even if you exceed the initial investment amount. Okay, so that's some of the things that we are able to do, okay? And to help people and to guarantee, who's talking? Who's talking? They need to guarantee, I'm sorry about that. They need to guarantee, they will guarantee that you will never run out of money, okay? All right, and so one of the tools I use to do that, it's called The Importance of Retirement Planning. And it's the 3 circles. And I sit down and go through your now money, your later money, and your nest egg. And we figure everything out step by step. The plan is customized just for you and your family. And we figure out how to make your income last forever. I'm sorry, I'm so distracted. I'm hearing voices all over the place. So, thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, this is a live reality TV, so we don't take anything out. Anyway, I hope you got that. If not, if you need another clear explanation, please give me a call. I mean, really, I would love to sit down with you and your family or your church or anyone and go over all of this information, okay? Another thing that I provide with everyone is legal service. I think everyone needs access to legal service. That means having a lawyer at your fingertips anytime you need it. And I think that's why most of us, especially those of us in the inner city that can't afford a lawyer, we just simply can't afford to have, I'll call my lawyer if I get in trouble, like you see on TV, when you're watching these cop shows and things like that. We can't afford to do that. I know I can't. So I have a legal service. This way you can call, you can get information, and they will provide you with legal service over the phone and help you through problems. That's why a lot of us get in problems. I'll tell you an example a problem that I have. I have a legal service, and way back in the day when I was young, I had all these credit cards, and I charged them up. I went out, bought clothes and everything else that you do when you're in your 20s, and then let's fast forward, I couldn't afford to pay them. I was over my head. I was living above my means like a lot of people do because I did not have a budget, which is I live by now. I have to have a budget. Here's a copy of it. I have a budget now. So anyway, I had all these bills. I just didn't pay them, and I thought, I got a few calls from collection department, and then they just went away. And then we fast forward, I don't know, until I bought my house. 10 years later, 12 years later, then I bought a house, and I guess all these companies were monitoring the people that didn't pay their bills like me. And then when they saw that, we started making a little bit more money buying houses and cars and things like that, the creditors came after me for their money, and I don't blame them. I would have done the same thing. And here I was struggling with my new mortgage, my kids, and everything else, and trying to pay bills that I created a long time ago that my husband had nothing to do with, and I was just over my head. So I had my legal service. I picked up the phone and I called them and I told them about what was going on. And anything you don't know the answer to, if you use this service, it'll be helpful. But if you just have it and don't use it, it won't. So I called them up, I explained my credit situation to them, and they asked me who were the companies, and I can't name all the companies, but they were just like regular credit card companies that I had, Visa, MasterCard, and some other well-known names. And so I listed all of them, and they asked me how old were the bills, and I said about 10 years old, whatever. And what the lawyer told me over the phone blew my mind. He said, listen, it's considered consumer credit, and he said if you have consumer credit in the state of Connecticut over 6 years old or whatever, he said you did not have to pay it at that time. And I mean, don't quote me on all this for all of your bills, but at that time, I didn't know that. So what he did, they will write letters on your behalf. So what he did at that time, he wrote a letter to each one of my creditors, and they stopped calling, and I did not have to pay them. He said because they were already written off and they didn't show up on my credit, it didn't affect my credit at all. So I'm just using that as an example for, things that I didn't know. When my child was in middle school, he got suspended and the school did not have an in-school suspension plan. So I told the school, I don't want my kid to be suspended. I went to my lawyer, told him all about it, and he wrote a letter, and they never suspended my kid again. He probably should have been, because he was pretty bad. I don't want to say bad, but mischief. He got in trouble a lot, and he probably deserved to be, but he didn't. But this is my point. Anytime you run into any type of problem that you don't know the answer to, you'll have someone to call. I mean, and as far as like motor vehicle, driving, getting tickets, going to court for tickets. They went to court with both my kids when they were in college, and I didn't get any points on my insurance. My insurance didn't go up or any of that. So I used them for the city that I live in. I was having a problem. I used them for when my dog got attacked. So there's just so many things that you can use this legal service for, because you don't just get a lawyer, you get a law firm. And so they have lawyers that specialize in different fields, and they will, give you the law in whatever category that you happen to be having a problem with. And that can save us a lot, that can save us a real lot. So that's one of the other things that I recommend for everybody, because one of the questions on my confidential needs analysis is, do you have a will or a trust in place? Okay. A lot of folks do not have a will because they think it costs a fortune to set it up. Some of them do, depending on, what you have in it. And some of the trusts may cost a lot too. But if you have a certain legal service, one of the benefits that they provide is a free will. You get a free will, so you get the template, and it kind of prompts you. You get a template that kind of asks you questions. You don't even need to know anything about filling out a will. It's just like a form. They ask you questions, you fill in the answers, you email it into the law firm, and they review everything with it, and then they create these beautiful legal, on legal documents, you get a beautiful will. And it's all for free when you sign up with certain legal services. You also get a power of attorney letter, which is very important. And then you get a medical directive. That, I can't even express how important that is, to have a medical directive. That will be the person who decides what happens to your health care. What happens to you when you need surgery if you become incapacitated in any way, shape, or form. And then the power of attorney, of course, that will be the person that has full power of attorney over all of your assets and, everything else. So, these are, and you get all of that for free, plus you get a legal service for a very nominal nominal amount. So just give me a call. I'll give you all the information. I also want to mention, I only have about 2 minutes left, so I also want to mention about what's going on with voting. There's a lot of things going on with our voting rights, and we have a big election coming up. And someone told me, actually, it was Councilwoman Dasha, I forget which district she's from, told me that Bridgeport has the largest number of registered voters. Now, I can't say if it's Democratic or if it's Republican or independent, and I do not endorse anyone. I cannot endorse anyone. But what I will stress is that if you are not registered, get registered, because when Bridgeport has the largest number of registered voters, do you know what that means? That means that we get to decide who we send to Washington to represent us. Are we going to send someone whose policies line up with ours or whose policies don't? So just think about that. Get registered. Even if you don't even believe in voting, get registered and give yourself the option when that time comes. And that's my little tip today. And if you need any information about wanting to do a free seminar at your church or community center or senior center, just give me a call at 203-687-2778. And we are out of time, so that's all I have for today. And thank you for tuning in. This is Vanita Lambert at the David Goodman Reality and Truth Show, and we're on your side.